When I say you are the author of your life and you need to take the pen back, I'm not talking about some cute metaphor. I'm talking about a shift so deep that if you take it seriously, it will rewrite everything about the way you move, think, act, and believe. Too many people walk around like life is something that happens to them instead of something they actively shape. You let circumstances dictate your direction. You let trauma imprison your potential. You let somebody's opinion become your truth. But hear me, the moment you decide to take the pen back is the moment you stop letting people write chapters you were never meant to live. You can't keep letting other people tell you what you're capable of. You can't let your environment decide what kind of future you're allowed to have. If you grew up in chaos, you think your story has to stay chaotic. If you grew up around struggle, you think you have to stay in struggle. If everyone around you quit, failed, gave up, you start believing that's the normal ending. But you're not just a character in the story, you're the writer. You're the writer. You choose the tone. You choose the pace. You choose the outcome. And the craziest part is, some of you have forgotten you even had a pen. You handed it to people who didn't value your life as much as you should have. You let situations write your identity. You let fear write your decisions. You let comfort write your excuses. But if you take that pen back, everything changes. It changes not because the world suddenly becomes easier, but because you become clearer. You move from reactive to intentional. Instead of saying, why is this happening to me? You start saying, oh, what am I going to write next? You stop waiting for perfect opportunity and start creating opportunity. You stop accepting the story life gave you and start rewriting the parts that no longer serve the person you want to become. When you take the pen back, you admit something powerful. Your life is not fixed. Your life is editable. Your identity is editable. Your mindset is editable. Your habits are editable. You don't have to stay stuck in the first draft. You don't have to stay trapped in chapters that were written when you were broken, lost, scared, or unaware of your worth. You are allowed to rewrite yourself. You are allowed to evolve. You are allowed to delete entire pages if they don't align with the person you are becoming. But taking the pen back isn't easy. It requires truth. It requires facing yourself in the mirror and admitting that some of what you're living right now is a result of choices you made. You can't rewrite a story you're not willing to admit you participated in creating. You can't change patterns you refuse to acknowledge. Taking the pen back means saying, I may not have created every circumstance, but I will create my response. I will create my direction. I will create my direction. I will create my next chapter. Some of you handed the pen to fear. Fear tells you not to take chance. Fear keeps you small. Fear convinces you that you're safer repeating old stories than risking a new one. But fear is not a good author. Fear writes boring stories. Fear writes predictable endings. Fear writes a life without growth. When you take the pen back, you push fear out of the chair and say, I'll take it from here. Some of you handed the pen to people who should have never been near your book. People who doubted you, talked down on you, betrayed you, abandoned you, or couldn't see your greatness even when God put it right in front of them. You trusted their judgment more than your own vision. You let them edit your dreams. You let them shrink your goals. But this is your reminder. Nobody else gets to write your destiny. Nobody else gets to decide how far you go. Nobody else gets to determine what's possible for you. The pen belongs to you. Taking the pen back also means discipline. You can't write greatness with lazy habits. You can't create a powerful life with weak routines. A successful story is written in the choices you make every day. What you do when the alarm rings, how you respond when you're tired, what you feed your mind, the energy you allow around you. Every action is a sentence. Every day is a paragraph. Every season is a chapter. And whether the story ends in victory or regret is determined by the choices you write consistent, not occasional. There will be days when you don't feel like writing. Days when the page feels heavy. Days when you think your story doesn't matter. But that's exactly when you need the pen the most. Because the moments you push through are the moments that define your character. Characters grow in adversity. Heroes rise in conflict. Strength is revealed in struggle. You don't write a powerful story by avoiding difficulty. You write it by overcoming it. When you take the pen back, you decide that your life will no longer be a product of random events. It will be a product of deliberate intention. You choose the narrative. Your past is a chapter. not the whole book. But too many people live like the worst thing that ever happened to them is the only thing that defines them. They act as if one mistake, one failure, one season of struggle is the entire story of their life. But hear me clearly. A chapter can influence you, but it should never imprison you. A chapter can teach you, but it should never control you. A chapter can hurt, but it should never hold your future hostage. The problem is not that you went through something. The problem is that you stayed there mentally, emotionally, spiritually, long after the moment ended. You let a temporary situation become a permanent identity. When you treat your past like your whole book, you stop turning the page. You stop dreaming. You stop building. You stop believing there's more for you. You start talking like your best days are behind you instead of ahead of you. You start replaying old failure like a broken record. And every time you hit play, you reinforce the same story. This is who I am. This is all I'll ever be. But that story is a lie. You are not your mistakes. You are not your disappointment. You are not the environment you were born into. You are not the people who hurt you, left you, or doubted you. You are not the sum of your bad days. You are the author. And as long as you're alive, you can turn the page. Think about the greatest books and the most powerful stories. None of them start perfect. None of them skip the battles. None of them avoid the pain. They all have tension, conflict, heartbreak, setbacks, moments that feel like the end. But those moments don't define the story. They shape the character. They make the victory meaningful. They make the journey worth reading. Your past chapter might not have been pretty. It might have been unfair. It might have been unfair, messy, confusing, devastating. But it was a chapter, not the introduction of your ending, but the foundation of your next rise. Some of you keep rereading the same chapter, expecting it to give you something new. You wake up, relive the same memory, rehearse the same pain, revisit the same regret, and wonder why you feel stuck. You can't move forward if you don't stop rereading what broke you. You can't write the next part of your life if you're emotionally living in a chapter that has already passed. The reason your future looks blurry is because you're trying to walk forward while staring backward. The reason you feel heavy is because you're carrying old chapters that were never meant to be dragged into new seasons. Your past is a reference, not a residence. It's something you look back on for wisdom, not a place you stay in for punishment. Every mistake taught you something. Every setback sharpened something in you. Every heartbreak opened your eyes to something you couldn't see before. But the purpose of learning from the past is to move forward, not to chain yourself to it. You can acknowledge what happened without letting it define what happens next. There are people who will try to keep you in your old chapter because that's the version of you they're comfortable with. They knew you weren't healed, when you weren't focused, when you were lost, when you were unsure. And every time you try to change, they remind you of who you were. Not because they're right, but because your growth threatens their comfort. But you don't owe anyone the old version of you. You don't owe them the chapter where you were broken, insecure, or uncertain. You have the right to evolve, even if they don't understand it. You have the right to rewrite, even if they still read from the old page. Stop letting people who are stuck in your past drag your future back into the mud. And don't think for a second that your past disqualifies you from greatness. Some of the strongest individuals came from the darkest chapters. Some of the most disciplined people were once undisciplined. Some of the most successful leaders were once unfocused, unprepared, unsure. Growth happens when you stop letting shame narrate your life. Strength shows up when you stop hiding from what you've been through and start building from it. You don't rise because you had a perfect story. You rise because you didn't let the imperfect part stop you. The past only controls you when you give it permission. It can't hold you unless you hold on to it. It can't define you unless you accept its definition. And it can't follow you unless you keep walking back to it. You have the power to disconnect. You have the authority to turn the page. You have the ability to say, that was part of my story, but it's not the end of my story. And once you make that decision, you start moving differently. You start speaking differently. You start expecting differently because your focus shifts from what happened to what's possible. So when you think about your past, don't think about it as a lifetime sentence. Rewrite your identity by changing your daily habits and choices, because who you become is not decided in one big moment, but in the small decisions you make when no one is watching. People think identity is fixed, like something you're born with and stuck with forever. but identity is built. Identity is shaped. Identity is rewritten every single day through repetition, discipline, and the standards you set for yourself. You don't wake up confident, focused, disciplined, or successful. You become that through choices that stack on top of each other until they transform you. Your habits are the sentences, your routines are the paragraphs, and your days are the chapters that create the story of who you are. Some of you keep praying for a new life while keeping the same habits that destroy the one you have. You want success but wake up late. You want clarity but consume chaos. You want confidence but speak doubt. You want a new identity but repeat the same patterns that reinforce the old one. You can't rewrite your story if you keep writing with the same ink. You can't become the highest version of yourself if your daily actions reflect the lowest version of you. Change doesn't start with your environment. It doesn't start with your circumstances. It starts with your habits, because habits shape your thinking, and your thinking shapes your identity. Identity is not what you say. It's what you prove through action. You can tell yourself you're disciplined, but if you don't follow through, your mind knows the truth. You can call yourself strong, but if you quit every time it gets uncomfortable, your story says otherwise. Your identity is the consistent evidence of your behavior. If you want to rewrite who you are, you have to rewrite what you do. Not once, occasionally, daily, consistently, relentlessly. You have to train your mind to trust you again. You have to build a new pattern strong enough to override the old one. And here's the truth. Rewriting your identity is uncomfortable. It requires you to step into unfamiliar territory. It demands discipline when your body wants comfort, focus when your mind wants distraction, commitment when your emotions want to quit. The old version of you will fight for survival. That old self will whisper excuses, temptations, shortcuts, and stories meant to keep you where you are. But you have to push beyond the voice of the old you to become the version you were meant to be. Growth is not just doing more, it's becoming more. And becoming more requires leaving behind everything that keeps you small. Some of you are one habit away from a completely different life. One routine away from a new identity. One decision away from breaking a cycle. But you convinced yourself that small actions don't matter. You think skipping one workout is no big deal. You think sleeping in one more hour isn't going to hurt. You think one negative thought doesn't define anything. But listen to me, identity is built in the small things. Winning is built in the small things. Self-respect is built in the small things. Every time you choose discipline over comfort, you reinforce the identity of someone who doesn't quit. Every time you follow through on your word, you build the identity of someone who can be trusted, especially by yourself. Every time you do what needs to be done instead of what feels good, you become someone who creates results, not excuses. You don't need to change everything overnight. You don't need a massive transformation in one day. You just need to make consistent choices that align with the identity you want to step into. If you want to be someone who wakes up early, start by waking up earlier than you do now. If you want to be someone who's healthy, start by making one better decision with your body today. If you want to be someone who's focused, turn off the distractions that steal your attention. If you want confidence, do the things you keep avoiding. Identity grows every time you take action that matches your future instead of your past. And understand this, you don't become successful and then become disciplined. You become disciplined, and that discipline shapes you into someone capable of success. You don't wait for motivation. You create it by showing up consistently even when you don't feel like it. Consistency builds confidence. Confidence builds identity. Identity builds destiny. When you change your habits, you change the way you see yourself. When you change the way you see yourself, you change the way you act. When you change the way you act, you change your future. Rewrite your habits and you rewrite your life, but you have to choose it intentionally. You can't drift into a new identity. You can't casually become great. Excellence is written through deliberate daily decision. Success is written through disciplined choices. Strength is written through difficult moments where you show up anyway. Stop waiting for the perfect timing. Write your moment now. Too many people waste years, sometimes decades, sitting on the sidelines of their own life because they are waiting for everything to line up perfectly before they move. They wait for clarity, for confidence, for money, for support, for motivation, for a sign for someone to validate their dreams. They wait for the fear to disappear, for the pain to settle, for the circumstances to feel comfortable. But listen to me carefully. Perfection is a trap. If you wait for the perfect moment, you will wait your entire life. There is no perfect time to start. There's only the time you choose to stop hesitating. Some of you have convinced yourselves that you need everything figured out before you begin. You think you need every step mapped, every detail understood, every obstacle predicted. But the truth is, clarity comes from action, not from sitting still. You don't get confidence first. You get confidence by doing. You don't feel ready before you start. You feel ready because you started. Every great achievement you see around you was born from someone who moved before they felt comfortable. They didn't wait for perfect conditions. They created momentum in imperfect conditions. You keep waiting for your fear to go away, but fear doesn't disappear. It gets quiet. Fear feeds on hesitation. It grows when you sit still. Fear becomes louder every time you procrastinate, every time you retreat, every time you talk yourself out of taking the next step. But once you take action, fear loses its grip. You start realizing that the thing you were avoiding wasn't as big or as impossible as your mind made it appear. Your strength grows in the doing, not in the waiting. Some of you are letting time slip through your finger because you think tomorrow will be easier. You think next month will be different. You think next year will finally give you the space to focus. But nothing changes unless you change. Time doesn't create opportunity. The more you wait, the further you drift from the life you want. The more you delay, the heavier the regret becomes. And the danger of waiting is that you get comfortable waiting. You get comfortable dreaming instead of doing. You get comfortable planning instead of executing. Before you know it, 5 years pass, 10 years pass, and you realize you were always capable, you just didn't start. Life will not pause for you. Life will not wait until you feel ready. Life will move with or without you. And if you don't take ownership of your moment, life will write your story for you. And when life writes it, it writes from circumstance, not intention. When you write from purpose. That's why you must stop waiting for ideal conditions. Move with what you have. Start with what you know. Begin with who you are. You don't need the full picture. You just need the first step and then the next one. And then the next one. Progress is built one decision at a time. Some of you believe you need motivation before you act, but motivation is a result of action, not the source of it. You get fired up when you see progress. You get inspired when you honor your commitments. You get motivated when you realize you're becoming the person you said you wanted to be. The moment you start, everything inside you changes. Your confidence increases, your energy rises, your purpose sharpens. The act of taking responsibility over your moment gives you a strength you didn't know you had. Movement creates momentum. Momentum is what carries you through the hard days. And yes, the path will be messy. There will be mistakes. There will be setbacks. There will be days you feel lost, confused, overwhelmed. But movement through struggle will always take you further than waiting in comfort ever will. You learn faster by trying than by thinking. You grow stronger by doing than by analyzing. You become wiser by experiencing than by imagining. The world doesn't reward those who wait for permission. It rewards those who take action. Stop telling yourself you need more time. Stop telling yourself you need more resources. Stop telling yourself you need more knowledge. You need courage. You need commitment. You need the willingness to start before you feel perfectly prepared. You have what you need right now to begin shaping your next chapter. Waiting will not make you more capable. Working will. Waiting will not build your skills. Practice will. Waiting will not open doors. Effort will. Every opportunity you want is on the other side of movement. Your moment doesn't arrive. It's created. It's crafted through discipline. It's carved through decision. It's built through consistency. You don't stumble upon greatness by accident. You build it with intention. The second you stop waiting, the second you decided today is the day, the entire trajectory of your life shifts. You stop being a spectator and become the author. Don't let people fear or failure dictate your narrative. Because the moment you hand over control of your story, you hand over control of your future. Too many people live their entire lives shaped by voices that were never meant to define them. They listen to people who don't understand their vision, who don't carry their purpose, who don't feel the calling inside their chest. They let opinions become limits. Let criticism become truth. Let discouragement become direction. You were not created to live based on somebody else's expectations. You were created to walk in your own assignment. And the fastest way to lose your destiny is to let other people decide it for you. People will always have something to say. They will doubt you, misunderstand you, judge you, underestimate you, judge you, underestimate you. And it's not because you can't, it's because they can't see what God planned inside you. Some people only see the version of you that exists in their memory. They don't see the growth, the hunger, the discipline, the calling. They only see the past. And if you let them, they will trap you inside that version of yourself forever. But you must understand that their perspective is not your truth. Their limitations are not your destiny. Their disbelief is not your reality. You don't need their approval to become who you are meant to become. Fear is another author too many people let write their story. Fear tells you to stay small, stay quiet, stay safe. Fear tries to convince you that risk is dangerous, but regret is harmless. Fear will show you imagine. Fear would never imagine success. It magnifies the worst case scenario and hides the best case possibility. And when you let fear write your narrative, your life becomes a collection of avoided opportunities, abandoned dreams, and unrealized potential. Fear cannot be the narrator of your life. You must take the pen back, even when your hands are shaking. Fear will always be present, but it should never be in charge. Courage isn't the absence of fear. It's the decision to move forward anyway. Every meaningful chapter you want to write will require doing something you've never done. Every breakthrough will demand that you break away from the comfort that keeps you average. You can't let fear choose your next step. You can feel the fear and move anyway. You can doubt yourself and still show up. You can be uncertain and still push forward. The moment you stop letting fear decide for you is the moment you begin rewriting your true identity. And then there's failure, one of the most dangerous narrators if you give it the pen. Failure has a loud voice, and for many people, it screams louder than success ever whispers. Failure can make you believe you're not enough. It can make you believe your past mistakes predict your future outcomes. It can convince you that trying again is pointless. But failure is not final unless you accept it as final. Failure is a teacher, not a judge. It doesn't define you, it refines you. Failure is feedback. It's information. It's part of the process. The only thing failure cannot survive is persistence. You can't let failure write your identity because failure only sees a moment, not the mission. It sees a setback, not the comeback. It sees a mistake, not the lesson. It sees the fall, never the rise. But you must see beyond the present moment and understand that every great story has chapters filled with missteps, disappointments, and loss. There is no greatness without struggle, no strength without resistance, no success without trial. Failure only becomes powerful when you let it shape your self-worth. But when you look at failure through the lens of development, it loses its ability to control you. Your narrative has to come from within. It has to come from your purpose, your conviction, your grind, your vision. You have to take responsibility for the story you're writing and refuse to let anything outside of you hold the pen. People will talk, but you don't have to listen. Fear will whisper, but you don't have to obey. Failure will appear, but you don't have to surrender. Your narrative is yours. And when you understand that, when you claim authority over your own story, the world around you starts to shift. Taking control of your narrative doesn't mean you never feel afraid or discouraged. It means you choose the voice that leads you. It means you choose your purpose over your excuses. It means you choose your calling over your comfort. It means you choose the future you desire over the past that haunts you. No one else gets to define your destiny unless you hand them the right to. And today you stop handing it out. You must learn to silence the noise, silence the doubt, silence the opinions that shrink your vision, silence the voices that tell you to settle. You are the author. You are the narrator. You are the one who decides what this next chapter looks like. And the moment you truly embrace that power is the moment everything changes.